You can predict enough to really get yourself out of a dangerous spot or not go near there. Is that how it feels with the weather, or does it still seem to be a very unpredictable thing that you could get into a dangerous situation, like, quickly?
Felicity, why don't you lead off and then
we
follow?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Antarctica is that you still can't get accurate forecasts for Antarctica. I mean, here it's no big deal to get a forecast at the end of the week, and you could probably get a forecast into next month, what the season's going to be like, but Antarctica, they just don't have the data to do that, so they can't create really long-term accurate forecasts. So you don't have a lot of information about what the weather's going to be, and it can change a lot. It can change very quickly in terms of day-to-day what the weather is, so you literally wake up and you can tell by the movement of the tent whether it's a good or a bad day, but you don't have a lot of warning about that. Or from season to season. So if you talk to someone who skied to the South Pole this year, they could have had an extremely different experience to someone who skied to the pole last year, because one season might be very calm and not a lot of wind, another season might be an awful lot of snowfall, and so that's very different experiences. And those weather events can still be very scary. My last trip to Antarctica, on our second day in Antarctica, we had a 100-mile-an-hour windstorm come through the camp, and it flattened both our tents on the second day before we'd even started the real expedition yet. So that's a very demoralising feeling, to be sewing up your tent on the second day of your expedition. So they still can be very scary events. Interesting point.
Well, you know what, I'm going to put you two on the spot, Adam and Gus. And, you've been reading these words. I mean, how would have you learned, some things that maybe answer that question from a different perspective, from someone who's been reading the words and living the words but not have been on the ice?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could kind of reflect and give my somewhat rather less informed view on that. But as I understand it, Scott brought along a lot of excess baggage that ended up being utterly useless to him in the end, such as the ponies and those tractors that he ended up bringing that ended up failing on him, and more or less just ended up adding to all of the stuff that they had to either take care of or drag along with them to a certain point. And I certainly think that had they known not to do that and might have supplemented what they had brought with something else, the dietary needs, then certainly I think it would have stood a much better chance.
On a similar note, I think the idea of relying on motor sledges was a big factor in them bringing a lot more of the equipment and everything that they were going to have partially motorized. Sort of the work was going to be off of them, so they didn't need as many animals to haul everything, and they could put more on it and maybe more stress on it. And I'm not exactly sure how much he really did rely on those, or expect to rely on those. I assume it wasn't too much, but I still think that little bit, if he hadn't even considered motorized sledges, would have changed a lot of his choices in the long run. That might have affected a lot. Yeah. Because they broke down within like days and did absolutely not really anything for them. So
I'd like to know what you were thinking about, why you were pulling those sleds during your interval there.
What we are thinking every day? Oh, everything. It depends, I think it depends on how harsh the day are. If it's a difficult area in, up and down the glacier, then you're concentrated, the crevasses and things like that. Or when you're on a mountain plateau, that's, skiing, and then it can be very, some shapes in the snow can get you a picture or an idea, and the patterns in the clouds can give you other sort of ideas. So it's to me it's sort of a meditative when you're really skiing. But if it's sort of dangerous, if the storm or blizzard, then you are concentrated on to focus on, to be careful. So it's a wide. I would say everything.
I think what Leave and I, what we know is for the last 25 years or so, we've been having discussions from the ice with kids in one way or another. So we know we can do that, and we want to make some sort of change. So we're feeling the challenges around the water issue globally, and so we want to talk with kids on this extraordinary continent of ice. A continent that's governed by no one government, that's treaty governed. We want to talk to kids particularly about the challenges of the water issue globally. And so we're bringing together an international team on ice, on water, to talk about the issues that intersect globally with water, fresh water, because it's political, it's economic, it's the haves and have-nots, it's a source that's depleting, that not all of us who have it at ready access are actually that aware of. So we want to just elevate that discussion, and we want to empower young people to understand what we've learned on the ice itself, and that is, if you take small steps, you can actually, those will accumulate to something. They'll get you some.